Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star sports podcast and YouTube channel program. We're talking Chiefs with the folks who know them best. That is Jesse Newell, Sam McDowell, Vahe, Gregorian of the Kansas City Star. I'm Blair Kirchhoff. And guys, we know an opponent. It took a while for that to happen, but the Chiefs are going to play the Houston Texans in the divisional round on Saturday at 3:30. We all kind of guessed this spot, didn't we? That when as the results were unfolding over the weekend, we kind of thought that the Chiefs might be the first game on Saturday, and here they are. So it's the first of the 4 divisional round games, and the Chiefs are going for their 7th straight divisional round victory. They've won 6 in a row in the Patrick Mahomes era. Put that into a little perspective. What it means to win 7 straight divisional round games. Now, 5 of them were at home, so they had that advantage. But last year they went on the road and won one.
Well, think about this. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but they had not won 7 postseason games in about the previous 55 years, something to that effect, right? They'd only won 5 or 6. And so when you start thinking of it that way and you start adding on these other things, all the different times now that they're in position to get to yet another AFC championship game. Remember that before Patrick Mahomes, the Lamar Hunt Trophy literally had never been brought to Kansas City, even for a potential win or loss situation. The only time that team, since it was named the Lamar Hunt Trophy, ever had a shot at it was in Buffalo a couple decades ago when they lost. So all these things are just part of the new normal. We understand it can't last forever. It seems like they've got, the moment in front of us. They've got a chance to make the most of it, but we'll see.
Well, I can remember one time the Lamar Hunt Trophy was awarded in Kansas City and not to the Chiefs. It was when the Patriots beat them, right, in 2018.
That's right.
And Lamar,
that was Patrick Mahomes' first season. My point of confusion. That was first time it was here.
That was the passing of the baton, really, or the beginning of the last leg, anyway, for the Patriots. They went on to win the Super Bowl that year. Chiefs won it the next year. But I remember
one quick thing you're reminding me of. Sorry, it's just that by then, I don't know if Bill Belichick did it that day, but there were a whole bunch of videos of him like getting handed the trophy and just throwing it aside. Meanwhile, it was the holy grail to the Chiefs because they'd never seen it. Sorry to interrupt, Blair.
No, that's exactly what I was going to say. That it seemed to mean nothing to Belichick, and here they were awarding it in Lamar Hunt Stadium, basically, and I just thought that was a little bit insulting. But ever since then, just one time handed the not to the Chiefs since then, right? The Bengals won it in 2021, and they were pretty happy campers that day, that's for sure. But so they play the Houston Texans, and Texans, I thought, were pretty darn impressive on Saturday against the Los Angeles Chargers. That was 32-12, I guess, is what the final score ended up being. I thought the Chargers were in pretty good shape early in that game, led 6-0, and took a rally at the end of the first half for the Texans to get the lead at the break, and then they just dominated the second half. But these are teams that met. Chiefs and Texans met in week, I want to say 16. Do I have my weeks right? 15 or is it 16? Chiefs won 27-19 at Arrowhead in a game that was the last of the games this year that the Chiefs won by one score. Made it 11, tied the NFL record for one-score victories. But I didn't get a sense after that game that it was that close, and I thought the Chiefs played extremely well. Sam, what do you remember about that day?
Hollywood Brown. That's the first day that this Chiefs offense started to look a lot different, was when they integrated Hollywood Brown, and I think a lot of us anticipated that he was going to be a key factor into the season when we saw him in training camp, because he had a terrific training camp, really second in their wide receiver room only to Rashee Rice as far as the way I thought the receivers would impact the offense. And then he got hurt and missed 3 months. And even those of us who did think that Hollywood Brown would be terrific for the Chiefs this season, you still had to have some doubt considering he hadn't played an NFL game in like 10 months by the time he was on the field against the Texans. And his transition to playing, even though he played fewer snaps, was seamless. And the snaps that he was on the field for, it got even better the week later against Pittsburgh. Even if his stats didn't get better, I thought the Chiefs' production off of him being on the field got a lot better. So to me, that was the biggest difference. I'm sure Houston has one very, very specific memory, which was Tank Dell going down. That was, quite clearly had an adverse effect on the game, and then also the players themselves who had witnessed it and who were on the field for it. We know C.J. Stroud is best friends with Tank Dell, and their offense wasn't great for the rest of the regular season. So I think these two teams remember different wide receivers from the game, but those for sure I think were the two standouts for all of us.
How about you, Jesse? What was your takeaway from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Sam hit on both of them. We can talk about it being a game that the Chiefs seemed to dominate late and kind of a different feeling from the Chiefs that they beat a team and kind of dominated them late. But to Sam's point, I think if you're a Texans fan looking at this, you say, well, there were two games in this game. There was a game before Tank Dell went down and before CJ Stroud started crying on the field, and a game after that. And really, the Texans offense did nothing after that point. And so, look, I mean, let's get to the reality of the situation for the Chiefs. Other than a few upsets happening and the Chiefs somehow not facing the Bills or the Ravens potentially in the AFC Championship game, this is about as good as they could have hoped for. I mean, I think they'd rather face the Texans than the Chargers. They're comfortable favorites in this game, 8.5 points, whatever that is. It does not mean in a one-game sample they can't lose. It doesn't mean the Texans can't continue this momentum on the next week. But, as far as the Chiefs are concerned, them getting the Texans here and then getting either the Bills or Ravens in the AFC Championship game at home after a bye week, this plays out about as well as they could have hoped. I mean, they could have hoped for maybe one glimmer of another scenario that would have been, Broncos, then Texans to get to the Super Bowl. But this is pretty good. This is pretty good for them. And it doesn't mean they can't lose. It doesn't mean that's not going to be a tough game. It just means going into the game, this is about as good as they could have hoped. And there's definitely some reason for optimism with the way they played the Texans the last time out here a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I was thinking Steelers would have been the one. But they ended up doing what the Steelers have been doing for the last month, and that's rolling over to the Ravens. So I'm with you, Jesse. I thought going in that while I was watching the Chargers and Texans game unfold, that I'm thinking, man, I hope Houston can rally here and somehow get by. But the way when it was all over and the way Houston had played, especially on defense, I thought they were terrific on defense. But Justin Herbert with 3 interceptions during the regular season, he had 4 in the game in the playoff game, and they got Anderson and Hunter got pressure. I thought that the Houston played some great defense, and of course, D'Amico Ryans after the game was, talked about that was, that's the way they've got to play to win, and I think they're going to bring a pretty salty defense up to Kansas City. I don't know, Sam. I know that you wrote about the best possible path for the Chiefs. Is this the best possible path?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say realistic best possible path. I mean, the best possible path would, of course, have the Ravens and Bills losing in the first round. But
right,
yeah, I mean, of the realistic options, you're right, Blair. And the Texans have a terrific defense, but it's the only way they've won games this year. I mean, they're 31st in offense in DVOA this year. Like, their offense has not been good because they have the absolute worst offensive line in the league. And so that's a spot where we saw the Chiefs finally generate some pressure, I think, in the second half against the Texans. But the reason the Texans moved the ball for 2.5 quarters against the Chiefs is the Chiefs did not exploit a really bad offensive line that, remember, got further hurt in that game where they dropped 2 starters in that game. Those starters were already backups in the game. I mean, the reason the Texans defense can hurt you is because they don't blitz because they don't have to blitz. They're first in the NFL in pass rush win rate. They're second in total pressures. They pressure Justin Herbert on half of his dropbacks. And the Chargers probably feel more confident about their offensive line than the Chiefs feel about theirs because they have Slater and Alt on the edges, and those guys got torched in the game. I mean, Justin Herbert's numbers look terrible. He had no help. His receivers dropped passes, and his offensive line didn't protect for him. But, like, that's a formula we've seen the Chiefs lose games with in the past seasons. They don't have the drops that they had in past seasons, but that offensive line, like, the Texans' D-line can rough up a game plan if you're not able to protect. So I think what we're going to see is more of the short, quick passing game that we saw the Chiefs try and employ to take advantage and exploit the fact that the Steelers didn't have great coverage, but they still can generate quick pressures. And that's just one last stat on that. I mean, 15 of the Texans' pressures were quick pressures, less than 3 seconds. They were on the quarterback. I mean, like I said, they can wreck your game plan if you're not careful and you're not accounting for that aspect of them.
Yeah, this is where the playoffs are different, right, guys? I mean, the Chiefs haven't turned it over in 7 straight games, but you saw Herbert hadn't turned it over 3 times all season. Like this is what you got to avoid. But Sam talked about it well. Like their defense is ranked 3rd in DVOA, and their offense is bottom 5 or bottom 7 or whatever it is. And it's very clear what the Texans are at this point. They are very, very good defensively. They can get after the quarterback, and they can't block anybody. And they're going to throw it up and hope that Nico Collins comes down with a long ball. Now, if we're talking, person to person here, realistically, like the Chiefs have had some issues with that sometimes this year. Teams chucking up a deep ball, going up over a cornerback and getting one. And they had some problems covering Nico Collins for a little bit of that game as well. So, listen, we can see a path both ways here. Like you could see the Chiefs having a turnover or two that they haven't had recently. You could see Nico Collins getting a couple big plays and turning them into something. But like at the end of the day, the Chiefs are the better team, and they're the better team at home, and they're a rested team, and they have Hollywood Brown, as we saw in this previous matchup, that makes their offense so much more dangerous, even against a really good defense. I want to mention the fact, too, when we talk about the pass rush, Sam mentioned it. The Chiefs have to get after C.J. Stroud. I mean, it's just like a non-negotiable. Didn't really do that in the first matchup, but we also have seen George Karlaftis come on, along with some other guys, with Charles Omenihu coming back here late in the season, especially against the Steelers and against the Browns. That Texans game was kind of the one they didn't do as well. But if they can kind of come back to their performances that they've had over the last month or so, I think you're a little bit more optimistic about the Chiefs' chances.
Blair, I would just chime in with some of the things that we've written about in recent weeks as sort of points of detail that matter now. Sam, we've all known that Andy Reid has a great record after buys, but Sam explored it pretty deeply and got at the numbers when the other team doesn't have a buy or when Andy has extra time. 29-3 in his career. That's pretty good. Chiefs in the Mahomes era are 15-3 in the postseason. Pretty good. All these things suggest, at least to me, that the Chiefs have a what might be called a psychological advantage, right, from the get-go. Doesn't matter, only until it doesn't anymore, right? But I think you add that factor into this playoff, just sheer experience of it, how completely immersed in this process most of this team has been. I think there's a lot of favorable things for the Chiefs here, and they can all become undone with four interceptions or things like that the Chargers experienced. But I don't foresee that being the case for the Chiefs.
So C.J. Stroud, second most sacked quarterback in the NFL this year, 52 sacks of him. Chiefs only got to him twice in the regular season. You remember the second one? It was the last defensive. Yeah,
Mike Pennell, who was just as stunned as anybody that he was credited for a sack.
He, at his locker, people tried to talk to him, and I remember him just saying out loud, he goes, "I got the sack."
That was the first one. The second one was the final offensive snap of the game for the Texans. That was Joshua Williams coming in on a blitz.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, and then the Chiefs ran out the clock from after getting the punt. So Spags just dialed it up, and there it was. They did have 2 interceptions in that game. McDuffie got his second, right, after getting one the previous week against Cleveland, and Jaden Hicks got an interception too. So they did get after the passing game in a pretty good way. It just didn't result in a bunch of sacks that day.
Am I remembering right? I don't feel like there were a lot of what might be called exotic blitzes that day, but it might be just that they were unsuccessful. Do you guys have it at the tip of your tongues? I mean, did they have a little more restraint than normal because they expected to be able to get to him with straight rushes?
I don't remember that, but certainly the Josh Williams blitz was an exotic. It came from the right side, as I recall, and it was on Stroud before he even knew what hit him. That was a heck of a play, and probably maybe the defensive play of the game for the Chiefs. I am dying to know what you think about what the Chiefs should do at left tackle. Jesse, what do you think?
You guys already know my thoughts, I'm sure, but I think they got to start DJ Humphries. I think what you're looking at here for the Chiefs is it's playoff time, and even if they win this game in a week, they're going to face a team that's going to be about a coin flip against them, even at Arrowhead. And you cannot limit yourself, can't limit your playbook, you can't limit what you're going to do. And right now, what they've done with Joe Thuney is they've catered everything to make sure he can stay afloat out there, which has been great. They've won with it. They've won with the quick passing game that Sam's talked about. But why not have the quick passing game and then the left tackle you can go to just in case you need the drop back game? And I know he had rough moments in the finale against Denver. I know there was a couple times where it makes you go, oh my gosh, this looks like some of the worst left tackle moments of the season. But I just, they've already pulled glass in case or broke glass in case of emergency to bring Thuney in the middle of a game before. There's no reason you can't do it again if it just gets to that dire of a situation. But I think their upside right now when it comes to the run game, being able to have those three interior guys together, when it comes to the drop back pass game, just in case you fall behind 10-0 and you have to go to 5-step drops or 7-step drops and you can't play in the game script that you were planning on, I think your best chance is with a real left tackle. So I'm interested to hear what these guys say, but Andy Reid's not revealing his hand, and I doubt he reveals his hand before Saturday's game. But I think the Chiefs have to go back to DJ Humphries because it makes their interior better, it makes their run game better, it makes their upside better. And at the end of the season, what you're trying to do when you're trying to win a Super Bowl is make your ceiling the highest it can be. And right now, I think that's with DJ Humphries. Sam?
I think they both have significant risks. I think with the Joe Thuney option at left tackle, there's at least some evidence of reward. I don't think that we've seen the evidence of reward with DJ Humphries at left tackle. I do think that every piece of that Broncos game needs to be put in the proper context, whether it's, we're analyzing that Najee Johnson had a rough day. Well, the Chiefs blitzed twice the entire day. Like, their pass rush was not getting home. So if most cornerbacks are going to have a rough day in the situation that he was put in, or whether it's DJ Humphries, I think they didn't help him at all. And look, I understand that. Like, if you want to analyze and grade a player and evaluate whether or not he's playoff ready, you're not going to get the same evaluation if you just bring help to his side all day long with running back help, with tight end chips. Like, you're not going to get the same sort of deep evaluation. So his performance needs to be put into that context. He did have several, 4 or 5 really bad snaps in the second half. But I actually think the greater concern is how little he's played with Patrick Mahomes, because a lot of what Patrick Mahomes does, and the reason he's so good at sack avoidance, is because he knows his offensive linemen really well. And he knows he's got this sense for when they're going to get beat, because he also studies opposing edge rushers and interior linemen. He just has a sense of when he's going to need it to escape the pocket. And I think if he's in the back of his head wondering rather than having the assurance, even if that assurance is that he's going to get beat, if he's constantly wondering what's going to happen here, then now the quarterback is more affected. It's not just about the offense. And I think Patrick Mahomes at this point probably has more questions about DJ Humphries than he does Joe Thuney.
It's a great point to counter my own point, because the last time the Chiefs lost in the playoffs was that exact game you're talking about, Sam, against the Bengals. He got happy feet. He got in his own head. He played the worst half of football I've ever seen him play. And the Chiefs lost. So that's a really good counterpoint to what I'm saying, which is maybe your upside is just higher with putting the guy that Patrick Mahomes trusts the most on the left side. And at this point, maybe that is Joe Thuney. I don't know. That's a good question that's going to be asked inside the building.
I think both these cases are really persuasive, and it makes me totally gridlocked. I can see either scenario. I see the risk in each. I see the, I guess, upside in each. I don't think there's any third answer. I don't think Wanye is going to be a factor. I don't think.
Yeah. You present the Wanye argument. Go for it. How about Blair's
got Kingsley.
Blair's got Kingsley. Yeah.
I think Humphries is going to be the guy. I don't know whether he should be, but I think he's going to be. Another thing I remember about the regular season victory over the Texans is the Chiefs ran the ball well. Kareem Hunt had a nice game. He had a 20-yard run. I think he finished with like 55 rushing yards. And then he actually went down at the end of the game, right? I think he could have scored, but he slid. And it could have been a 2-score victory for the Chiefs. But he could have ended up with 70, 75 yards rushing, which leads me to think, boy, you want your all pro guard playing guard and not tackle. You want to be as strong as you can up the middle, and that means not having Caliendo playing guard. On the other hand, the 3-game stretch of Cleveland, Houston, and Pittsburgh with all the great pass rushing defenses there, no sacks. The games that Joe Thuney started at tackle, no sacks of Patrick Mahomes. Not that he wasn't pressured, he was, and certainly he didn't even finish the Cleveland game because of pressure in the fourth quarter. But I'm kind of torn on what I think they should do. But I just based on the little clues and hints that Andy Reid has dropped, that I think Humphries is going to be the guy. In the game at Denver when Humphries played, and he had some good moments in addition to the bad ones. He did have some good moments. The Chiefs only got 33 offensive snaps in that game. They needed to have 50 snaps for Humphries to get even more comfortable. That just didn't happen for him. But I don't know. I do think Humphries is going to end up being the starter.
There's one other element of this that I just want to throw out a quick stat. The Texans are terrible at allowing quarterback scrambles. As good as their defense is, as good as they are up front, like they're third. Jesse mentioned third in DVOA and defense. They're third in rush and pass DVOA. Like they're really good against the run. But the spot where they're really susceptible is they give up a lot of quarterback scrambles. I think they've given up the second most yards this year in the NFL on quarterback scrambles. We remember the Chiefs' first touchdown against the Texans when they played in Week 16 was Patrick Mahomes scrambling for a touchdown. Like I don't think that'll factor into their decision, but I think it should factor into our analysis of we think about their offensive line, the type of problems that Houston can bring. Is Patrick Mahomes shows a much more, he's much more willing to scramble in the playoffs. He's much more willing to put his body on the line in the playoffs than I think we see in the regular season.
The only thing I was going to say, Blair, is, we follow online like the Washington Tampa Bay game where they don't kick the field goal and half of the internet explodes, and then they go for the touchdown and get it, and the rest of the half comes back. And I mean, there's always second guessing here. I think I just want to reiterate this right now. No matter what happens after this game, this is a tough decision. This is not black and white. I don't think the Chiefs are idiots for either way they decide. This is a real 50-50 one, and I can see the upside and the benefit. It reminds me of like, if you're at the blackjack table and trying to make sure you memorize the best outcome, or the best chance at a good result, even though you don't know the card that's coming. You know what I mean? So I guess I just want to read it right now. Like, no matter what happens after this Chiefs game, they're not idiots if it didn't work out, and they're not geniuses if it did. They just got to do what they think is best for the long term. And this really is, as Vahe spoke to, this one's right on the fence. Like, I can see both sides of the argument here. And so I guess better first guessing than second guessing. Even the first guessing is really hard to distinguish like what they should do in this particular scenario.
And none of them are great options. I mean, that's why it's a tough decision. Is neither of these two options are great options.
Not the ones they prefer, obviously. Not the ones that they wanted to get to this point with.
Are we going to know before the game who it's going to be?
Friday, maybe. Saturday morning, Friday at midnight, whatever it is. I think that's probably about. I don't see Andy Reid tipping his hand on this one. It's a lot different. I mean, look, your game plan as a defensive line is a lot different. We know what Chris Jones does to opposing offensive lines, the way he picks and chooses where he's going to play.
Right.
He's helped. I mean, the Texans have some dudes who can get after the pass rusher, and I'm sure, Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are probably fighting for who's going to take left tackle if it's DJ Humphries out there.
Well, not to mention the game plan. Sam, you talked about it. Like, if it's Joe Thuney, there's going to be chips. There's going to be tight ends on that side. There's going to be RPOs. There's going to be quick passing game. DJ Humphries, potentially, they could go back to a little bit more fuller version of the offense that we saw earlier on in the season. So not to mention the run game. I mean, how much you prepare for the run game. I know, Blair, you mentioned that they ran with some success against the Texans, but I mean, weeks 5, 6, 7, 8, the Chiefs were running better than they were throwing it. You know what I mean? If you have those interior three, that's a possibility as well. And arrested Isaiah Pacheco and arrested Kareem Hunt. So yeah, I'm with Sam. I don't think he's tipping his hand on this one in any potential small edge. I mean, there's a reason the guy's 29-3 after a bye week and has won a lot of football games, potentially on the verge of 300, right, Vahe? I mean, the guy kind of knows what he's doing and tries to get every advantage to his favor.
Yeah, he's sitting right at 299, and only 3 men have won 300, so it's pretty amazing. He'll get there sometime, maybe Saturday.
Didn't we, Vahe, on kind of on that topic, haven't we determined that doesn't Mahomes have the second most playoff victories of a quarterback?
I think with last Super Bowl, he might have ascended above Montana or somebody. Because he's at 15. I think there were a clump of incredibly historic figures that were in that 11 to 14 range. I can't swear that number put him over, but I believe that's right.
I should have looked it up, but what do we expect from him on Saturday? Is this going to be, playoff Mahomes, playoff Patrick?
Just FYI, Montana's at 6. Montana's at 16. Patrick Mahomes is third at 15. Tom Brady's got 35.
Thanks. There you go. Thanks.
Okay, yeah, 35. There it is.
That's ridiculous. 35. Unbelievable.
It is. I guess I would just say I think we all expect this, right? We know he's he has a way of rising to the occasion, right? When the game's on the line, when the games matter most. Jesse alluded to it earlier. I mean, I think there's been some halves that he'd like back in the postseason, but really only one where it was, him at his worst. Almost all the rest of the time. I mean, I haven't looked this number up yet, but they've had at least 6 of those 15 wins, I think, were coming back from double-digit deficits. 3 that very first postseason, 2 of the Super Bowls.
For all
2
three
of the other Super Bowls, all
of the Super Bowls.
Yeah. And putting away the games. I mean, so he's a marvel. And I think the thing that distinguishes him is that he wants those moments in a way that I was thinking about this a little bit watching Justin Herbert the other day. Man, is he talented? And I'm not saying he shrunk in the moment. I don't really mean that, but obviously by the end, with the way things were going, I mean, he was a defeated man. And I think there's some innate characteristic inside certain athletes that allows them to flourish in the cauldron. And Patrick's one of the greats we've ever seen at that.
Yeah, cold-hearted analytics guy here, would say, not as much clutch or whatever. But I mean, Sam spoke to it, and we'll speak to it again. Like, Mahomes' superpower in the regular season is third downs. The clutchest of moments, he'll scramble, he'll figure out. We saw those plays like Kelce breaks off his corner route, Mahomes dodges the defender, they find a hole, they find a way. But, I'll throw it to Sam here, but like now, since it's the playoffs, every play is third down for Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? Like this is who he is. And so that's where we've seen this magic from him, when he doesn't have an ankle to run on and he runs for 25 yards in the Super Bowl against the Eagles. When he extends these plays or calls a play in last year's Super Bowl that he hadn't called all season, that just run in training camp, and completes the pass on a blitz to Jerick McKinnon. I mean, he rises to the occasion in these moments, but kind of what helps it right now is like during the regular season, you still have to have some kind of thought, like, I can't give my body on the line for every single play. Now it's the playoffs, and he's willing to do that. And so, yeah, the scrambles, as he mentioned, as Sam mentioned, I think it could be a huge part of this game. It's been such a weapon for him to have in the playoffs, because even when you shut down the pass game, shut down the passing options, Mahomes seems to find a way.
I was just going to say that. So Patrick Mahomes did have the best passer rate in NFL history in the playoffs until yesterday. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Baker Mayfield passed him yesterday because Baker Mayfield went 15 out of 18 with 2 touchdowns. His rating was 146.5. So now the list of best passer rating of all time in the playoffs is Baker Mayfield at 105.9 and Patrick Mahomes is at 105.8.
Oh, don't let Patrick Mahomes know that.
Something for Patrick to strive for. There you go.
That's right. Hey, Baker got the better of him in college. Patrick will top him here. So, all right, guys. Great conversation, as always. Big thanks to Randy Mason and Monty Davis for producing SportsBeat KC. And big thanks also to Jesse, Sam, and Vahe. We'll do it again, I believe, next week, maybe one way or the other. Win or lose, we'll be back talking Chiefs next week on SportsBeat KC.